Alright, hey everybody. It is time for episodes 12 and 13 of Kamen Rider Zeztz, or cases 12 and 13. But yeah, so pretty interesting how they're doing this. I feel like these could have, well, actually, no. Some of the pacing definitely works best for the two episode format, or in the two episode format. So basically, for these episodes, for the story, uh, Baku comes up against Nox, who transforms into uh, Nox Knight, as the form's called, and actually do kind of like how the transformation is for Nox as opposed to Baku, because his driver says, I believe, erase instead. And when he transforms, he turns completely invisible under the driver. The driver stays visible. And then the suit forms around him. Whereas Baku's, it's just the thing of his whole body being engulfed in this like smoke. And then the suit forms around him. So yeah, it's one of those things where like I actively like I like the differences between the two, and I also like Nox's suit. I'm not gonna lie, it's a silvery with some orange and black, and on the driver itself, the like teal blue color from the Zeztz driver, and everything. And I like the color scheme. It reminds me of the Rhino Ranger from Jungle Fury slash Geki Chopper from Geki Ranger in terms of the color scheme and everything. And I do like the distinct differences between it and Baku's Zeztz suit, with the helmet being mostly the same, but like having that like the like what is it? I'm trying to think. The horns, I guess, being on like the bridge of the nose, where the nose would be on the mat or on the helmet, and then going up. I like the visor being orange. I like just how the color scheme goes in general, and I do like the look of it's not a driver technically. It's something else in terms of the name for it. But yeah, um, I guess it's just, oh, it's the Night Invoker, so it's actually really cool. So yeah, um, I'm actually surprised. I was kind of expecting Nox to use maybe the recovery capsum. Maybe he will in a future episode. Um, but yeah, we will see. But he doesn't seem to have any more capsums than just the one to transform into his main mode. And yeah, and he basically shows in the first half that because of his Dreamwalker powers and everything, he's basically a reality warper within the dreams, whereas Baku really doesn't have that power because he's more newer to the dream walking itself and everything, and he really hasn't explored like warping reality of dreams and everything. Um, so yeah, so the main plot mainly that Baku has to explore and eventually defeat is there are a series of meteor strikes that are hitting the Earth, and they are gonna they start striking over a period of 2 days. So you have an initial one that lands right outside of the local space center, and then the next day, the next meteor, or I think it's a few meteors, hits the space center itself. Then what's supposed to happen is the rest of the meteors are going to come, I guess larger meteors, and wipe out humanity, kind of like the meteor that struck the Earth and caused massive climate shifts and climate change, and cooled the Earth down so much that the dinosaurs died out because they're obviously warm-blooded and everything. Meaning mammals were pretty much the only things that could really survive outside of, like, if there were any, like, sort of tropical climates or warmer climates where lizards could and reptiles could survive and everything. So it's kind of like that, where basically, if the asteroid, which weirdly enough in the second part it looks more like a small moon, is just funny. If it hits the Earth, it will basically do some kind of cataclysmic event that will wipe out all of humanity, and Baku has to stop that because not only is it affecting the dream world, it's affecting the real world. So yeah, it's one of those things. I like the inspiration. Not only do they draw on from, like, spy shit, but they also draw on stuff like, and I think I said this in an earlier episode of the podcast, but stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street, where, you know, the dreams can affect real life and vice versa. And it's one of those things of, like, a cool crossover between, or would be between, Baku facing off against Freddy Krueger, which basically Nox kind of is, but he's not a sadistic asshole. He seems to be a guy who's just jaded on life and what happened before the series to him, and he wants to basically enact revenge. And that's also kind of the thing, is there's a bit more to this guy than we've been shown thus far, and obviously it's a slow burn sort of thing with the mystery and what's going on, and all these pieces will be revealed as the episodes go on. I have no problems with that. I'm just saying that that's basically what it is. And he's basically not after Baku. In fact, when he depowers Baku and with his dream reality warping powers, he just leaves Baku alone because he basically was just out to demoralize him. And that's sort of more effective than just outright hurting or killing him. So yeah, and so Nox has the power to basically depower all of the capsims that Baku has thus far. And before that, though, he breaks open the barrier capsum from the last episode, and or from episode 11, and pretty much shows that what's inside is apparently a nightmare. That is basically just it doesn't have any real consciousness. It's basically a thing that, when unleashed by itself, it looks like the version of the Kamen Rider Zeztz suit that it is, but cloaked in this, like, deep smoke, which I'm just going to say they should have toned down the smoke effect just a bit, just a tad, because it has kind of that problem that the auras do in Dragon Ball Super, where mainly because they're CGI and everything, and they're toned up way too fucking much. They cloak all the characters that the auras are around in pretty much a thick, sort of not fog, but, like, you know, the aura, and it makes the characters really hard to see. And that's kind of the thing here, is they turn that smoke effect up way too much. I think a more subtle or toned down version of the same effect would have done the job and done it a bit better, because under that digital smoke, you can barely tell it's the Kamen Rider or the version of the Kamen Rider Zeztz suit that it is. But yeah, so it basically reacts on instinct and everything. And initially, it starts fighting Baku when it's released, but Nox then says, or gets its attention and say, "Hey, fight me!" And eventually, even though it gets some hits on Nox, he uses his gun, sword thing, his weapon, to kill it and get rid of it and everything. And basically he explains that what's in the capsims, or the capsums themselves are made of nightmares, basically. Not like the nightmares that he's been working with in the previous episodes, but just, I think, just a raw nightmare that isn't tamed and everything. And the interesting thing is, as well, is that the nightmares, because they are the energies from the capsums, they can just use the powers that they have been made into and everything. And that's just very interesting with how they're going into these details and everything. I assume Baku in a future episode will ask, maybe in the next few episodes, will ask Zero what exactly the capsums are and why Nox was able to break one open and unleash it and everything, why it's basically a nightmare and everything. It also goes to explain why Baku gets shrouded in the mist and everything when he transforms, because it's allowing the suit itself to form around Baku, but not have the nightmare take control of him, I think is what's going on. At the very least, that's what it seems to me. And I just really like that. And it's all very interesting in terms of how this shit is supposed to work. I'll see in a future episode if I'm right about this stuff, but that's what it seems to be. It kind of reminds me of the how the Ranger keys in Gokaiger worked, where the keys themselves are the energies of the powers of the previous teams, and in future Gokaiger stuff, future teams past them seem to work, which is the energies of the keys when unleashed by the Mobirates just give them the suits, the powers, and everything. But in the Ranger Keys case, they don't contain a consciousness or just a raw emotion, which the nightmares are, or that the nightmares have and everything. I also just realized it's basically pitting a nightmare powered up Baku against just the monstrous nightmares and everything. So yeah, I'm assuming there will probably be something in a future episode that maybe Baku will have a bit of a moral dilemma against as well. And if they do go that route, it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. And I also just realized, because Nox isn't cloaked in smoke like Baku was, I assume his capsums work differently, or the one capsum he has works differently, and the future ones will as well for whatever he will use. That's just at least how I'm seeing it. And we will get more details on that as the show goes along and everything. Also, I guess I'm having, as I'm talking about this right now and thinking about it, is that I'm assuming Nox will be the previous user of the Zeztz driver, and probably a previous Kamen Rider Zeztz, basically. It would not be surprising to me if that's what happened, because basically they also reveal what is his name? Nox. I don't know why I instantly forgot about it, but Nox. Might be because I'm a little bit tired, but Nox was an agent for Code. He was Agent 4. And it's just interesting how this works, because he also says to Baku that Code exists in real life, not just in the dream world, and that Baku doesn't really know anything about that. Now thinking about it, I do think that there is a bit of a missed opportunity with having Baku not wonder about Code and everything that Nox had told him in the dream, after he wakes up from the dream, because it seems like that should probably be part of his journey to rediscovering his passion for wanting to be an agent and being Kamen Rider Zeztz and everything. I don't know. It's just, it seems like it's missing something, because it's just his, like, it's supposed to be him feeling crestfallen and downtrodden and everything because he no longer has access to his Kamen Rider Z's powers, and Zero even puts him down for not acting like a true agent or anything. To which I think Baku actually has a point when he says that he wasn't really trained to be an agent, which Zero doesn't really acknowledge. I feel like that's something that's maybe going to get addressed in a future episode, or at the very least, I hope it will be. Because that seems like a weird thing to just leave on the table and just not do anything with, at least right away. Yeah, to me it just seems like there could have been a little bit more nuance and added characterization to that part of that part of the second episode. But yeah. Then we also have the kid who is in this episode. He doesn't do a bad job in terms of the acting. You may think that that wouldn't be hard to or that would be hard to tell through the language barrier. Nope, I've watched enough Japanese media that features child actors to know that even through the language barrier, you can tell when a kid is not acting well. And yeah, because there's a certain amount of emotion that you need to put into your voice, even if you're speaking through a language barrier, or you're speaking a different language than whoever's going to hear you. And yeah, but this kid does pretty well. And for examples of kids that act really badly, actually the original Kamen Rider series from 1971, I just watched like a week or two ago. I just watched these episodes. Episode 4 of that show has a really bad child actor in it. Hopefully the kid, if he stuck with acting throughout his life, became a better actor as he got older. But Jesus fucking Christ, the chick playing his older sister was doing better than him, and every other person was carrying the episode. That kid just did really badly. Doesn't help either that, like, even the ADR he recorded was bad. Because back then, before they had like boom mics on set and location, which I don't understand why that is at all, they had to re-record all their dialogue in post after everything was shot and the episodes were edited together, and try to match their mouth movements and emotions that they acted on screen as best they can. It's why if you watch like older Japanese stuff from before, I think the 2000s, that maybe wasn't a movie, but especially stuff that was made for TV, you'll have this like really weird disconnect a lot of the time between like mouth movements and spoken dialogue. But yeah. But nowadays, ever since probably the mid 2000s or so, they actually have boom mics that they have when shooting these things. So they record the actors speaking during the takes and align the audio properly. Only needing to do ADR for the suit scenes and maybe some things where they didn't have the best like takes, so they got the actor to just re-record the dialogue in post. So yeah, as well as some other bits that would need ADR. So yeah, and then Kyoryu Sentai Zyuranger. Some of the kid actors in that series, I've only seen like the first up to like maybe 10 or so episodes. The child actors, or some of the child actors, not all of them, some of the child actors in that show are terrible, or were terrible. So yeah. But the kid does really well in this episode, and Clearly, he got good direction and he knew what he had to do for the lines, so that's good. Um, Initially, Baku meets him in his dream. Then he meets him in real life and reminds him of who he is. Obviously, I think it makes sense to me that, like, especially for a kid, he wouldn't recognize Baku right away. And he would need to be reminded of who he is. Because let's be honest, when you wake up from a dream, you kind of instantly forget most of the shit that you just saw in the dream. So it makes sense. This kid wants to become an astronaut in the future, and he's the one with the dream and everything. And it turns out the nightmare for this episode or for this story is the meteors itself. And so Baku has to try to defeat it. But Baku goes through a bit of a funk in the second episode, and he gets his mojo back, basically, after talking to the kid, and the kid basically has his own drive to make his dream come true, and especially after Baku has a conversation with him about keeping their dreams alive and everything. He gets his second wind, and he goes to get a new capsum in his dream, and it's the gravity capsum, and he uses that. Meanwhile, Baku's sister finally gets in on knowing or finding out Baku's secret. Trying to remember which one. Minami? Yeah, Minami. And she goes into Baku's closet and lowers the thing that's basically a lever that reveals the door to the secret agent headquarters, and she finds out that he is a secret agent from Zero. She doesn't bring it up to him, and which I was kind of expecting her to, but Zero basically just tells her that Baku's on a very important mission as an agent, and then after what happens to Baku when he's saving the day, she goes back in, and he starts to tell her details about stuff that he says that if she reveals it, he'd have to get rid of her, basically. It's one of those things where I think I was spot on with the not analogy, but comparison. The comparison I made for the last two episodes, where it's kind of like a Danny and Jazz type thing. I think that they're kind of setting up from Danny Phantom, where Jazz finds out Danny's secret, but keeps it a secret even from him until he's ready to tell her. We'll see how Baku eventually finds out that his sister knows his secret, but that's what it seems like is going to happen for now, unless if maybe in the next episode or two, maybe she goes to help Baku, because basically when he uses the gravity capsule to become Kamen Rider Zeztz, he quickly stalemates Nox, and Nox lets him go up to the meteor and uses gravity powers to spear right through it like it's Goku against King Piccolo. And but then I don't know if it's by accident or on purpose, he basically creates a black hole to suck the meteor into it to get rid of it and everything, even though he killed it. But I think it's just to make sure it doesn't crash down on Earth, because, well, Earth's gravity would be pulling it in eventually. And it would still cause a lot of damage, even if it wouldn't entirely destroy humanity anymore. And Baku gets sucked in to the black hole. No idea where the hell he went. And we get some words between Nox and Zero that talk about how he was an agent and everything. And yeah. And basically Nox has some words to Zero of like, him using a civilian or an agent to just do his dirty work or whatever. And basically, Nox seems to have the impression that Zero and Code really do not give a shit about their agents and do not give a shit if they die or get lost on a mission. So it seems like maybe in a future episode we'll get like a thing explaining why. Maybe he had a partner that he lost, or maybe he himself got lost and that's why he has that. But yeah. And yeah, so we finish on that with Minami. We also get a small thing where sorry, I just need to check the names. Fujimi and Nazca, they part ways with Baku in the second part, specifically because he's like lost the will to be an agent and everything. There's also a bit of friction when Baku tells them that Nox is in his dreams and he's the former guy from the police station or the paranormal activities division, Odoka. And yeah, that just causes a rift because Fujimi doesn't really want to believe it because he knows, or he knew Odoka, and that's not him, basically, so he's in denial about that. Nazca has more of a want to believe Baku on that because of what she's seen thus far in the series and what Baku has proven to them that he's seen and he is capable of, and saving the day and all that stuff. So it's one of those things where she at the very least wants to get to the truth, and she's willing to believe that Odaka is behind what's going on in the dreams, even if Fujimi does not. So yeah, so they go to track down Odaka in real life, and they go to investigate or try to find as much info as they can from, I'm assuming, the art museum from the last two episodes. And yeah, because he was the one that donated the art to the museum, that they could probably try and track down like maybe an address that he lives at or something to at the very least get them on the trail to finding him. And I do like that. It's giving even the secondary characters something to do while the main plot's happening. It's good effective storytelling, I think, in a TV show, to have like B plots and everything. But at the same time, because they know they have more episodes and they're serializing the show, they take their time with executing these things, and they know they can leave it for a future episode while they deal with the main threat and everything else that's going on in these episodes. So it's always good when you have time efficient storytelling like that. So yeah, so I think that's basically it for these two episodes. Just kind of fascinating to see what's happening with this, and can't wait to see what they do in the future or in the next couple of episodes. Can't wait to see what happens with Baku, and I can't wait to see what goes on with Minami and Code and Zero and Nox/Odaka. It's just very, very interesting to see what is going on right now. So yeah, I would not actually mind if in a future episode, and we might get this, if Nem or Minami maybe become secondary female writers. So they've had female Kamen writers in past series, and I think that would be very interesting. So yeah, I do like that Minami is putting a lot of trust in Baku to be uh, or do his best at what he's trying to do and everything. And yeah, and I am glad that we finally have her finding out his secret. It would be a little too easy, I think, to just have her not find out his secret for a while and maybe do some comedy bits and everything. But I do like the restraint and the comedy for this. That's kind of a thing I don't really care for in like Super Sentai, where or even just a lot of Japanese media actually that I've watched, at the very least in Tokusatsu, where I think to maintain the kid audience, they don't always let everything be as serious as certain situations should be. So they make like a big joke and then they have like a big like physical comedy moment. Granted, the show has had a few of those, but it's always brief, and I do like that. But it's also good when writers of a show know when to let something just play out and be serious without any jokes. That's a thing a lot of American media can take note of, because it's much more effective that way. You save the comedy for when it actually needs to be done. So yeah, especially when like the comedy for Kamen Rider Zeztz mostly is like very subtle kinds of things. Like there's a joke early on with Baku when he tries to pull out a new special capsum and he doesn't. So then Zero tells him that his mind is what influences the capsums. But he should also try using the ones that he already has to take on Nox. And and he says, "I was gonna do that," and it's just with a kind of straight face, like he's all kind of like forlorn that he kind of just got called out. And that's funny. I will give it to them. That is funny. Um, so yeah. Um, and it is good that Ryder tries to attract a more older audience as well than just kids. Um, it works for like the tone and everything that they go for. Not to say that they don't like go for anything else, because I Gav, the series before this, I believe, literally the theme for the suit and everything was gummy candies to attract the kiddos. And then Super Sentai, Boon Boonger from last year as well. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, so not really much else to say on this. I just liked these two episodes. Feel like there could have been a little bit more meat to Baku's second wind getting, but otherwise, can't wait to see what happens next. I do like that Nox is shaping up to be a more kind of morally gray sort of anti-villain sort of thing. But yeah, we shall see what happens in a future episode, or in future episodes. So yeah, guys, not much else to say. Links to the description on my shit. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.